So I have shared this presentation several times, so I'm gonna go through the presentation rather quickly, and then at the end I do have I've been receiving feedback, and so I do have some questions that I will respond to that I've already loaded onto the presentation, so that so hopefully if there's more questions out there, I can get those and incorporate those in our future decisions going forward. So I just wanted to remind everyone that this was our document that we shared back in summer, where we have distance learning, limited hybrid, full hybrid, in-person restrictions, and then in-person unlimited. We are still way over on the left in 100% distance learning. And where we're hoping to go is to the limited and full hybrid over the next few months. And so I just wanted to share again, we were in purple tier for some time. The county and state, they have 4 different tiers: purple tier, red tier, orange tier, and yellow tier. And our goal is to get to the yellow tier. And so on October 19th, we were in red, and on October 26th, we were in red, and in November 4th, we are now we're in the orange tier. So although we're in this tier, they gather data from a week or 2 behind. So we're behind the data. So unfortunately, there have been an increase in cases throughout Contra Costa County. And so currently we're in orange tier. So going to, okay, the next slide. So what we want to start doing is we want to start giving the opportunity to phase back our students back into school. We understand that we're doing distance learning right now, and although distance learning is working for some families, it's not working for their students, and so there is a push that parents have been requesting that their students, that we reopen our schools, and that we do so very quickly. On behalf of the governing board, we take these actions very seriously, and we have been moving very cautiously through this process. And so this is sort of our plan to bring students back in. We have an agreement to bring our special education students and our non-English speakers back onto campus for legal testing, so for special education testing and for LPAC testing. That can take place on our campuses. We do have that agreement with our bargaining groups. The next thing we're working on now is ways that we can start to bring students back who need support. And this would be for any kid who is having difficulty with distance learning, who may just need support with technology, or just may need some academic support, or need some social emotional support. So we're working on that currently with our labor partners to be able to come up with a plan and an agreement so that we can do that safely. And then the next step we want to work on is creating a hybrid model, which hybrid means part of the experience is in school and the other experience is also at home. And we have a target date set that our governing board approved for January 11th. So over 2 months away is when we're looking to, bring those students back. And then when we're gonna fully reopen, that's to be determined. We don't know that now because of the way the cases are looking. So again, this is the testing and meetings. We finalized that agreement, and that is currently taking place. This is what we would look at in those groups of students coming back. It could be special ed students, could be our homeless and foster, could be limited English students, or it could just be whatever students are having difficulty. So we want to be able to work that out and offer that for our families. It would be completely voluntary. This isn't something that we would be grading or anything. This is just a way to support our students and to give our students opportunities to interact with adults and classmates. And we would do that in a safe environment on our school campuses, either out at our lunch tables, in our multi-purpose rooms, in our libraries, or in some classrooms. So that's what we're currently working on. Then our limited hybrid model, we're looking at phasing it in 3 different ways. We want to phase in our TK K1 students first. This is at elementary. Then we want to phase in our 2nd and 3rd graders. And then we want to phase in our 4th and 5th graders. And every week we would learn more about the process, and we would be able to assess what's working and what's not working. And so that's why we have them phased in different weeks, and we're not bringing everyone back all at once. And then we would do the exact same thing with our middle schools. You can see the dates align. So January 11th is for elementary, TKK1. January 11th here is for 6th grade on a middle school campus. So instead of bringing back all the kids, we bring them back 1 grade level at a time. And then we also have it lined up with our high schools where we bring back 1 grade at a time. Now, I put together a sample schedule of what it could look like. Now, that survey has caused many parents, to be confused, many teachers to be confused, and I only put it out there as a sample. So just so when we're in a hybrid model, and because of COVID, we have to do social distancing. So that means that we have to have space between each student in a classroom, roughly 4 to 6 feet. And so therefore, we can't fit the whole class on campus at one time.
You muted yourself.
No, yeah, someone keeps muting me. So we have to, we can only bring back a small number of students. So I put out a sample schedule of what it could look like. And from that schedule, I've gotten lots of feedback. Parents said, I need more information. I need more details to this schedule. I need to know exactly how many days my student will be at school. What are they going to do when they're not at school? Are they going to be able to keep their same teacher? Are they going to have to change school? There's been a litany of questions that have come up from that schedule. So let me advance the slide. So we did a survey last week, and I understand that not everyone received the survey, but we did post the survey on our website. But what we were generally asking from parents, we just wanted to know what grade your student was in and what school site they went to, and did you want to come back to face-to-face or did you not want to come back? And so there are some parents where their kids are struggling so much that they just want them back on campus to see friends, to do social interactions with their teachers, and just to get out of the house. And there's some parents who really want that. So I want to know, is this something that you really want? There's other parents who maybe they have underlying health conditions, and maybe they don't want their student to come back. I wanted to know that as well, just so we could start planning and start designing a schedule to start to meet the needs of the students who wanted to come back versus the students who did not want to come back. Now, the feedback I got from parents is, I need more information before I can make this decision. I've heard you loud and clear. So parents want more information. One of the things that's challenging is if we don't know how many of our kids are coming back and at what schools, how can we then make sure that we have enough teachers to teach them, right? And so again, this was a non-binding survey. So even if you put on this survey, I want to send my kid back to school, and then later on you change your mind, you don't have to send them. If you want to, if you put down on the survey that you wanted to remain home, and then you changed your mind, you didn't have to. But this created a lot of pressure for many of our parents, and so many of our parents have asked me to give them some more details of what a schedule will look like, and I will do that. I'm going to do that at the end of this week. I also needed to do a survey for our teachers. I needed to know, teachers, what grade do you teach? What school site do you work at? And are you going to request to stay in distance learning, or are you prepared to return to face-to-face? And this caused some confusion, because we do have some teachers who have underlying health conditions and who may be of a certain age where it may not be safe for them to return to do face-to-face instruction. And so with teachers,
a Zoom call.
With teachers, we need a doctor's note to confirm that, so that those teachers can get first choice at at whether or not they're going to come back or not. And so if we just open it up to all of our teachers, and then when all the slots are taken, then we may have some teachers who have health conditions who maybe didn't get an opportunity to come back. And so again, it was a non-binding survey. We just wanted to get a general idea of what teachers want to come back to work with their students, and what teachers have other health-related conditions, or they have someone in their home with a underlying health condition. And so we wanted to get information about from our teachers. And so then the plan is that after we shared more information about what the schedule could possibly look like, and more information around the distance learning, then we wanted our families to then sign a document that said they were going to return to face-to-face, or they were not going to return. And we were scheduling to do this next week, but I'm not sure if we're going to do that or not next week. But again, this is what I've shared, and so I just wanted to put that out there, that next week was the time when we were going to ask parents to make more of a formal commitment. So this is one of the examples of a possible what a schedule could look like, where students could come in. You split your students up into two groups, right? So you have a group that's in person, and you have a B group that's home doing distance learning, and then they flip-flop. Again, this was just a sample. These were just random times. With our schedules, we have to negotiate with our labor groups, and we have to work out all the details around a schedule. And so it's real hard at this point right now to tell you exactly what time class is going to be and how long class is going to be. So again, this was just designed to give you an example of what it could look like. And now this is what high school could look like. Not that it is going to look like this, but what it could look like. So some of the safety measures that came up that parents and staff were really concerned about. So if and when we open up schools, and when people come onto our campuses, everyone will be required to wear a mask. That goes for all of our employees, that goes for all students. And before students come back to campus, that will be part of the commitment that they sign. They will sign a commitment saying, if I'm going to return to campus, I'm going to wear a mask. And if I don't have a mask, the school will give me a mask. And if I refuse to wear it, I'm going to be sent home until I agree to wear a mask. And we just have to do that to keep everybody safe. We're going to do passive screening where families take their temperatures. They agree to a document, whether they do this online or whether it's something that they sign, where every day before the student comes onto campus, the student isn't coming to school sick. They're not coming to school with a fever. They're not coming to school vomiting or having loose stools or anything like that. That they self-check themselves before they get to school. Then while they're at school, if we need to, then we can do active screening where we have thermometers, where we can put it to the student's head and we can take their temperatures right there. We're going to do social distancing, so we're going to keep the students apart as best as possible. Where we can't do social distancing, we would then put the plexiglass dividers between students. We would also put plexiglass, for the teachers to work behind. And so that is what social distancing would look like. And then, of course, we would make sure that we have hand washing, that all of our sinks, are properly working, and we have soap, paper towels, and then where we don't have sinks and those things, that we have hand sanitizers available throughout the schools. And then we also, within the county, are working on an agreement so that all of our staff can be tested every other month. And that's, and again, that's what the recommendation is from the state. But again, that would need to be worked out and agreed upon. We have systems in place for if a student comes down with COVID, or if a teacher comes down with COVID, or if a family member comes down with COVID. We have all sorts of guidelines and procedures to address that. So those things are in place, and we're prepared to address the safety of our students and staff when they come onto our campuses. And again, this is that document continued. So like, for example, a student gets it, or a student has symptoms, we're gonna send them home, right? And we're gonna have them stay home until they don't have symptoms anymore. We're gonna ask them if they've been exposed to someone who has COVID, we're gonna ask them to get tested. And when the test is negative and after they've done their quarantine, then they can come back to school. Same goes for staff. So we have these systems and guidelines in place, right? And these are just those systems and guidelines continued. So the school board approved this at the October 26th meeting, and so we're moving forward with the planning. Now, these are many of the questions that have come up that I'm hearing from parents, and I did put this in Spanish as well, but here it is in English. So first of all, I've heard loud and clear that parents, students, and staff, they need more information. And I understand that. So I will provide more information on what a hybrid model looks like, and actually specifically what it looks like in elementary school and what it looks like in middle and high school, knowing that we're still going to have to work out agreements on that. Depending on the number of teachers who come back and the number of students who come back, there was a possibility that if, so let's just say at a school, the kindergarten teachers didn't come back because they had underlying health conditions. Well, we would have to get another kindergarten teacher in that class. And so that would require us to move students around or move kids around. So come on in, you're good. But what we've heard from some of our feedback is that there's a strong desire to remain at their current schools. So we've heard loud and clear that that parents want to stay at their current, parents want their kids to stay at their current school. We've heard loud and clear that parents want their kids to be able to stay with their teachers. And we understand that. That's important. They've been working together for for many months, and I know it's not easy, but many of them have made it work, and it's working, and so they want to keep that. So we've heard that. So as we come up with a model that we're going to share, those are things that we would want to make sure are included in the model. We also have heard from many parents, many parents, that students are in need of social interactions and support. Kids need to be around their friends. They need to talk to other kids. They need that, okay? And so, so as we go forward, we want to create a system so that kids get that interaction, right? I know they're on distance learning now, and they don't have that face-to-face contact with their peers. We also know that the timeline for making a commitment, we may need to adjust that. So I was hoping that we could make a commitment next week, but I believe we're going to need some more time, and that's perfectly fine. Throughout this whole process, we have to be flexible. We have to, we may set up a whole plan, just like we did at the beginning of the year, and then we may have to shut down because of COVID cases. So again, we're gonna have to adjust our timeline on making those commitments until more information can be shared out with our parents and families and staff. And then it's all going to depend on what we can work out with our labor partners to settle agreements. So we have to, teachers, like our teachers, all of our staff are under contract to do, to fulfill their duties of their job. So it's not as if someone is just not going to work. Like everyone's under contract, but how that looks and how we work that out, that remains to be seen, and we're going to go through the process, and we want to do that, and we want to work with our labor partners, and we want to work things out. So those are the questions. I'm more than happy to respond to any other questions. In addition to this, if someone wants to ask more questions about these individual questions that I posted, I'm more than happy to address those as well. But I'm open to answer anything and everything. So Ms. Laura, if you would like to start firing away with the questions, I would be happy to respond.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Clark. So could you, can we stop your sharing so we can have
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so we are going to open up for questions, and I have Marta Gonzalez, who will be helping us with the translation for the Spanish-speaking families, and also Austin will be helping us reading back and forth from the chat. Okay, yep. So whoever wants to start, thank you.
For the first question, I'm noticing a theme here, Dr. Adam Clark, you can chime in. It says, if you choose to stay with distance learning, can we switch to hybrid once it goes to full hybrid? And then also along those lines, if we choose distance learning, will our students' classes and teachers change? And does this mean that they will no longer be enrolled at their school and instead be in an independent school system?
Right. So very, very good questions. And again, what we are looking for is a commitment for the remainder of the year of what it is that where you would like your student to finish out the year. Would you want them to finish out in person, or would you want them to do distance learning? And let me explain why we need that commitment. And just for full transparency, every district that has reopened schools requires parents to do this. So this is not something that Mount Diablo has made up. This is something that they're doing next door in San Ramon. This is what they've done in every single district that has opened up. You have to make a commitment, because if we are going to have teachers ready to either do distance learning for the remainder of the year or to do face-to-face for the remainder of the year, we can't change, you know, daily, like, oh, for a week I want to do this, and then the next week I want to do that. So we are asking parents to make a commitment. Now, I said earlier that it is my intention to be flexible during this process. So if things are not working, or if our COVID numbers get better and we can start bringing back more kids, then if you signed up for distance learning, then I would want to allow that. I would like to allow those students to come back. Or if things got worse with COVID and you know, we had to then go back to distance learning, I wouldn't force parents to stay in face-to-face if we were pushing everyone back for distance learning. But again, all of these processes need to be negotiated, because our teachers have class size limits. They can only teach a certain amount of students, and they have credentials that only allow them to work with certain students. So I know I'm not 100% answering that question, yes or no. What I'm saying is that we would want to be flexible, and we would want to ask for that commitment. But then if things change, you know, outside of our control, then I would want to be flexible and make adjustments as we go forward.
Very good. Appreciate that answer. And so we'll alternate between the chat questions and also in person. So I see just the first person on my queue, Audrey FJ, if you would unmute yourself and let us know your question.
Hi, it's actually Nicole Evia, but it wouldn't let me change my name. I have a question about our magnet school programs. I understand that you're saying we need to know how many teachers are coming back or choosing to stay distant. But in those programs, our students receive a particular type of education. Where at Wren Avenue, my daughter is receiving an art-based education. So I need a teacher that is trained in the professional development that they've gotten over the past 4 years to teach her in the continuing method. I think the same is true for Sun Terrace with their science and for Holbrook with their dual language. So what assurances can I have that if I keep my daughter in distance learning, she will be able to maintain the art-based education that we receive at our magnet school?
Thank you for that question. And in my PowerPoint, when I put the feedback that we received, it was loud and clear that parents wanted an option to remain at their school and to remain with their teacher. So that is what that will be a top priority that we have. Now, if, you know, again, if your student's teacher does not return to work either face-to-face, and you want your daughter to be face-to-face, or your student to be face-to-face, or if you want your student to remain in distance learning, but your student's teacher goes back, then I have two options. Either you get a different teacher, or our schedule that we agree upon with our teachers allows for that ability to be able to keep their current classes. So I've heard loud and clear.
No, as soon as they end, I just start talking.
I've heard loud and clear exactly what you've asked, is that parents want an option to remain in their schools and remain with their teachers. And so going forward, we will make that a high priority when designing any sort of hybrid model. So I can't answer that yes or no, but I'm telling you that that's going to be a top priority because we've heard that multiple times.
Right. I just was curious because magnet school programs are a little bit different than the general population schools. Yeah. And meeting those children's needs.
And so you bring up an excellent point, because when we work out agreements with our labor partners, we cannot accept in certain cases a one-size-fits-all, because we do have magnet programs, we do have dual immersion programs, we do have STEM programs. You know, we have 4 different high schools that have 4 different types of schedules, and so we're going to need some flexibility in our agreements so that we don't settle for a one-size-fits-all approach.
No.
Thank you.
No.
You're welcome. Thank you for that
very
question.
much.
No.
Thank you.
No.
Oh my goodness.
Can we? Yeah.
Can we mute her? Let's see. Thank you.
I have a question.
Thank you. Okay.
The question question is regarding the building, maintenance of the buildings in the school, regarding air condition. There is an elementary school that has only one custodian, and we are talking about cleaning each several times a day. And there is only one custodian, and he's going to be able to do it, or the teachers will have to participate and clean also in the school. And what about the air conditions in the school also?
Okay, so there's two questions there. So the first one is we are in the process of changing all of our air filters. And so all of our air filters will be changed to the MERV 13. That is going to happen at all of our schools and in all of our buildings. So that takes care of that answer. Your next question with the cleaning is it depends. When you have a schedule that has a group of kids coming in the morning and then a different group of kids coming in the afternoon, it has to be sanitized in between uses. So some of our sample schedules only have our kids coming in once a day. And so if our kids are coming in and they're not sharing desks and they're not sharing supplies, then that desk does not need to be sanitized after every use. So in some of the example models that we have put out there, we have Wednesday as an off day, and we also have built time in our schedules where there will not be students in the classrooms, which will allow for custodians to come in and sanitize. But also, everyone's going to be expected to follow sanitation procedures. So everyone will have, a spray bottle, and will have paper towels to wipe off their own spaces and to wipe off other spaces as needed. It's going to have to be all hands on deck in terms of sanitizing your doorknobs or your light switches or desks, but it will mainly be the responsibility of the custodians, and they are prepared and ready to do that.
Thank you. Austin?
Thank you so much for the response.
Thank you so much.
With 20 minutes left, just to chime in for anybody that's just joining, we are alternating between chat questions and themes that we see in the chat. So thank you for that feedback. And also in-person questions for those that are raising their hands. Our goal is to get as many as we can. And of course, if your question makes it to the chat, we've got it saved and recorded. So Dr. Adam Clark, another question cluster for you along the theme of choice. Quote, what does the hybrid option look like when kids are home at specific days? Is it 100% independent without Zoom? Also, is there a choice between an A group or a B group for parent scheduling purposes? Also, are there other hybrid models that are being considered right now besides the one that is being presented?
So thank you for all those questions. So I got them all. I'm going to try to respond. So yes, we are looking at multiple hybrid models, and we are trying to find the best one that fits the request of what the parents and what the teachers are asking for. So if the teacher is teaching in class face-to-face, what are the students going to be doing when they're not in class? So right now, the way our system is worked out is that our teachers teach right now through Zoom for a part of the day, and then they also have part of the day when students are doing work on their own. So the hope would be that students have as much interactions with their teachers as possible. But again, that has to be worked out with our teachers on how much time we can ask them to spend with their students. And so that will be, we'll create a schedule, but then we'll actually have to, it'll be up to the teachers to come up with an agreement of how much time they're willing to spend working with students. And so in some places, and I'm not recommending this, but this is what happens in some places where teachers are teaching in class and they also have cameras on that are recording, that are live streaming to the students at home. That is not something that I'm currently suggesting, but maybe a teacher in our district suggests that, and maybe that's something that reaches the bargaining table. But that could possibly be an option. But there is going to be some time for face-to-face instruction, and there's going to be some time for students doing work on their own. So again, that's the hybrid model. But hopefully, the next schedule that we put out will kind of lay most of that out so that parents get a more general idea. As for if they choose A to B, we want to be flexible. So if our parents, if it's advantageous of them to send their kid to school on Monday and Tuesday rather than Thursday and Friday, we want to be able to make that adjustment and work with our parents. The whole reason why we want to bring kids back to our schools is to support our families, to support our students and support our families. So we really do want to work with them and make sure we have systems in place to support them.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Marta, do you have anybody, or
Yes.
Austin, do you see anybody who's raising their hand?
Yes, I got, there is a parent that has a lot of concern about her son is a senior in high school, and there is going to be any flexibility for them to take tests. He's really worried about that.
Yep. So we want to keep our high school students in their current classes so that they can get the credits they need to pass. So you said there's a concern about taking tests.
Regarding that he's going to college, that are needed for him to take.
We're going to continue with our college preparations, with all the exams needed that students need to take. I also just saw a message pop up about transportation. We're going to provide transportation. We should be reaching out very shortly to our students who regularly get transportation. And so, our plan is to provide transportation during the hybrid model.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Thank you, Marta. Austin?
Okay, and let's also take one more in-person question. I see a hand raised. The first person in my queue is Jasmine Robinson. Jasmine, if you could unmute and let us know your question.
Hi, I have a third grader, and my daughter has an IEP. And just from the start of us having the distance learning, she was switched from one teacher to the next. Her credentials were still on the other teacher's site. Even the invitation for the Zoom was the tricky thing. My thing is, I'm down for the kid to go back just because she has an IEP and I don't have all of the credentials that I should to even teach my daughter how to read correctly. So whatever she's seeing backwards that I can't get with the dyslexia, it's hard for me just as a parent. So I have to be there for her to do the school, and then I have to switch my work schedule. It's just a big old mess to me right now.
And Ms. Robinson, I feel for you 100%. I apologize that we're in this situation, but what I'm advocating for is for your student. That's what I'm advocating for. I want your student to be able to come to school, in the next few weeks and to get help, right? And to get the support that she needs, that she's legally entitled to, and have it not be through Zoom. And again, I don't know what day it's going to be. I don't know what time that's going to be because we're still working that out. But as long as we can work that out and work that out with your schedule, that's what I'm here trying to do. And so, so again, I apologize that you have to go through this and that you have to struggle with your daughter in meeting her needs, but this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, so I can get your student back on campus to get support. So thank you for that question.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Great questions. Thank you so much. Marta, do you see anybody who would like to speak in Spanish, and then you can translate? I have Maria.
Nayeli?
Maria Gonzalez?
Yes, Maria Gonzalez. Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I mean, I can speak in English too.
Okay,
but,
great.
But thank you so much for taking my question, because my concern is that if I choose my kids to stay home to do the distance learning, because I like how the system is working right now, to me, it's better than how it was in March, because in March, it seems like there was no organization on the Zoom, stuff like that. Like there were no teaching with the kids. And right now I like how it's working. especially for one of my kids that is a bilingual, so he has 2 teachers. So I just want to make sure that they're not going to be affected because I chose to keep them that distant learning just because I feel it's more safe, because all of this coronavirus, the flu is coming, you know, like the cold weather, kids are going to get sick. So I want to make sure that if they're going to do the distance learning, they're not going to lose any of the education that they're getting right now, the time with their teachers, especially spending the time in the Zoom with the teacher.
Yeah.
So, and I know it's going to be hard on like, oh, is that going to be the same teachers? It's going to be in Zoom because we don't know if they're going to go back to school or not. I will really appreciate if it will be the same teachers because they know the kids, they know what is their strengths and their weakness, so they know what do they need help. So mainly is like I don't want them to lose any education, like oh, because you stay home then you're not gonna have this hour that you had on Zoom. It's like it's gonna be more in your own. I don't want that because that's what happened in March. In March it was more like you're on your own. So that I didn't like it. Even though that I was here to help them, but they need the teacher. They need the teacher that is in the computer teaching them.
Yes, let me answer your question. Thank you so much for that question as well, Ms. Gonzalez. And again, if your student remains on distance learning, then nothing should change, right? Now, again, I mean, it's real difficult with over 1,000 teachers to make sure that every single teacher, winds up with every single kid who was in his or her class. And if I'm unable to do any surveys beforehand, it's very difficult on our part, but we're doing our best. Our goal is to keep kids with their teachers. That's what I'm hearing loud and clear. That's what I've heard you say. And distance learning in its current form will not change if you choose to keep your students home. So our teachers have done an amazing job in creating these distance learning platforms and experiences. But even with all the hard work that our teachers are doing, some kids aren't getting it, but some kids like Ms. Gonzalez's kids are getting it. So again, we're going to try to keep the same teacher assignments. Thank you for the
Thank
question.
you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you. Thanks for, and can you please guys do a meeting that is longer, because I know as a parents we have so many questions and I feel like half an hour is not enough to answer all the questions. And I appreciate you guys'
Thank
time.
you. Thank you.
Absolutely, we'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, Marta.
Yeah, the parent, there's a parent also that would like for the survey to be resent and give them more time to answer.
Very good. So again, I said earlier that I was going to relook at our timeline and resend out some of that information. But what I wanted to know, and I know Ms. Gonzalez asked about these meetings being longer and stuff. I want to tell you of two meetings coming up. We have a school board meeting on Monday at 6 p.m. and I'll be talking at that meeting. And then we also have a special meeting on the 17th. We have a meeting on the 9th, a school board meeting on the 9th, and then we also have a study session on the 17th where we're going to talk about that. So hopefully, I'm available to sit down with parents through Zoom. I can do school meetings if there's principals out there who want to have me speak to some of their parents. I'm more than happy to do that. I am going to release some information on Friday in our Friday communication where we're talking a lot about this, and hopefully we can answer a lot of those questions. But I fully understand that everyone has anxiety. I have anxiety. Everyone has anxiety, right? I don't want anyone to get sick. I want our students to be able to learn. I don't want students to lose their teachers or their schools and stuff like that. So I just believe if we continue talking and we continue working together, that we can come up with a system that nothing's going to be perfect, but I think that we can meet the needs of a lot of our students and a lot of our families and teachers and other staff.
Thank you for reminding us about the 2 upcoming meetings, Dr. Clark, and I would like to mention that we will offer the translation for Spanish, for our Spanish-speaking families for the 2 upcoming meetings. And in the future, if you need that service, please let us know in advance and we'll be more than happy to serve you.
So if I could request this, so Austin, I see a lot of questions on the chat. Let's just do speed questions. All right, I'll be very quick with my responses, but let's see if we can knock some of these out.
Let's do it. Okay, so the first question, is the instructional time in distance learning the same amount of time as the hybrid model?
Good question. We're going to try to keep them very similar.
Is there any physical interaction during time at school sites? Will there be any recess?
There will be recess. However, kids will be going out to recesses with their own class, not with the whole school. They'll be in designated areas for their class.
We are feeling as though we need the specifics of the plan before we decide to send our kids to school. If you need an agreement with the teachers union, how can we make a decision before the agreement is met?
Yes, so again, I've set the time for us to come back. The board approved January 11th, and so we have close to 2 months to create the agreement with our labor partners, and so I think that's more than enough time to do that, and we will have to share some outlines of what it can look like, but we're just not going to be able to share down to the minute what every single student will be doing before we reach agreement with all of our labor partners. That's just unattainable. Now, if COVID gets worse and we're on distance learning for the next 3 months, then we have plenty of time to put that together. But if our goal is to get our kids back in January, then we have to start moving. We have to start moving quickly on this.
Thank you for the response. Another question here, will there be stable cohorts in middle school and high school?
That's a good question. We're trying to keep the kids together in high school, but there may have to be some mixing of the cohorts. In high school and middle school, it's either going to be, are we coming to school for those social interactions, or are we coming to school for instruction? And depending on what that looks like, that's going to have to be the design that we come up with when it comes to middle school and high school.
Understood. One theme that we've seen today in the questions in the chat is, will they know whether their child's specific teacher is returning before they decide whether or not to send their child back to school?
Well, hopefully with a schedule that we share out, or a plan that we share out with parents, they can see if we prioritize keeping kids with their current teachers, then that'll be reflective in the plan that they have.
I see.
That was not an answer.
If COVID statistics dramatically improve by the spring, what are the chances that the district will fully reopen to a completely in-person program?
Yeah, that would be up to the county. That's not something I can decision I can make, or the school board at this time can make on our own. We have to follow the county's guidelines on that.
What is your vision for the class sizes that the students will experience?
16 or less.
That's false.
Okay, if we could limit our feedback to maybe just the chat if you have additional questions. We have another question here. Will kids be reconfigured even if hybrid isn't able to set distance on campus?
Will kids be reconfigured? I don't know, help me understand. Do you think changing their classes or their teachers or whatnot? So it's going to be difficult if we have kids who have a teacher who want to come back to school and the teacher doesn't come back to school. That's going to be difficult to create that experience. I haven't quite figured that one out, but we will continue to work on that.
Very good. And just Let's go to an in-person question as we approach our final few minutes. We want to thank everybody for participating and being here. Just as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, so we will have the option of posting this at a future time, as well as the chat transcription in case we missed anything. And of course, that goes for English and Spanish. Being in person is always nice because we get to see faces. So really, really appreciate you guys being here. So the first person that I see in my queue is William Fisher. If you could unmute yourself and let us know your question.
Hey, thanks, Dr. Clark. I'm working really hard. There's a lot of stuff that I have questions, but regarding next week, if we do another survey, are you guys looking to have the labor contracts finalized with all the teachers and knowing where they stand for us to make an educated, decision on our survey? Yeah, that won't happen by next week. So we're doing the best we can. We can, if the desire of all parents out there was to push this out until January or February or whatnot, or something like that, we could, I would feel more confident in saying that we could have that agreement done. But just with the amount of time that these take, I don't see that we could have that done in the next week or so. Okay, and then if the teachers, overall want to stay with this distance learning, is the district going to appease their wants and needs, and are we going to stay with the same program that we're doing now, or is it going to be forced into this hybrid? Well, I mean, so there was a fundamental question: are we here for students, or are we here to do for teachers? And so, I don't, unless I'm able to accurately, when we surveyed our parents before, we had, and again, it was a sample size of a few thousand. It wasn't all of our parents, but we had 60% of our parents who said they wanted to come back to school. And we had 40% who said they wanted to stay in distance learning. So I mean, so help me understand that. I agree. I mean, I want the kids, everybody wants their kids to go back to school. I don't think there's a doubt about that. But we can't do it without the teachers. Absolutely. I 100% agree. That's why, I mean, I'm new here. I'm trying to develop an understanding of what are some of our priorities that we can all sort of agree on. And if it's safety, then let's address the safety. If it's distance learning, then let's make that the best possible. But I know that there are kids and families that want to come back, and there's teachers who want to come back. I mean, I get emails every day from teachers who want to come back, but we have to work out this agreement. I'm confident that we can come up with an agreement. I'm very confident. The union has said, and they've proven that they are willing to work with us, and they are at the table. We're currently going through this process now. And so I'm confident that we can come up with an agreement, but it won't happen in 2 weeks. And, but I think that we can agree conceptually on some things, and hopefully that's good enough for us to be able to make some of those tough decisions. And I see Solis has been raising his hand so patiently.
Thank you. Dr. Clark, how will we catch the kids up? We have other school districts that are opening up. My sister in Orange County, their kids are back. My wife's family in Germany, they're shutting Germany down, but the schools are staying open. Our children are going to have a competitive disadvantage against all these other school districts that are opening when they're applying for schools, applying for jobs. I'm a hiring manager. I know I would look at this. How will we address that gap that is slowly starting to build in making our kids competitively advantaged in the marketplace?
I really appreciate that question, and it's a great question, and you may not like this answer, but I think I'm going to throw it out there, is that I think, first of all, is that we have to meet our students' social emotional, needs. We have to make sure that, and I know many families are taking care of this on their own, right? Like kids are thriving at home, but I think, we have to make sure that our kids have the foundation and that they feel that they're in a safe environment so that then they can learn, right? And so I think this is a phased in process. So I think at the beginning we're gonna go slow, and it may seem like
you know, like we're kind of lagging on the academics. But then I think once we can get things settled with our kids and make them comfortable in that environment, I think then we can start accelerating the pace and get our kids to a good place where they will be competitive. But that's a great question. And that's I mean, that's the $64,000 question right there, really. You know, but I also believe in the social emotional levels of our students, that if you follow Maslow's theory, you know, you got to have those basics. Now, I know you're taking care of food and shelter and all that stuff, but when they come to school, how do they feel in that environment? And that's kind of our first approach. So great question.
Thank you.
Okay.
I really appreciate the
I have a great question
overtime for our families. Maybe as our last question, I see here in the chat, can we codify the frequently asked questions, but then also what are the next communications that we can expect from you?
Yep, so Friday, please check Friday. However you get our information, our Friday letter, there'll be information in that letter. There'll be links to some further information. And then after that goes out on Friday, then the following week, we'll start getting more input, and we'll start refining what we're doing. And so, again, you guys continue to email me. I get hundreds of emails. You know, I read every last one of them, and I'm keeping them all in a folder, and I'm kind of looking at what are high priorities for people. And again, if I can just touch on those priorities, about 60% of our families want their kids back at school. But without a survey, I don't know what schools those are, right? Or where that is. And so again, I understand that, but families want to keep their teacher, they want to keep their schools, they want more information before they make a decision. They want to know flexibility, if they can come in and out of the program, and they, you know, did I miss anything? No, I'm sure we're going to do transportation. You know, we're going to feed them. You know, we're going to try to keep them with their same teachers. We're going to have them distanced. We're going to have all sorts of safety measures in place. We already have all sorts of protocols for if kids get sick, or if teachers get sick, or if people are suspected of getting sick. You know, we're working out all those details, and many of those are already in place and we're ready to go. But a lot of the fine details need to be worked out. And I just, you know, again, I appreciate this process. I know that I may have not have answered some people's question. You know, the one lady screamed at me and said I wasn't being honest. I'm doing the best I can. You know, I'm here talking to 500 people, doing the best I can, and I have a great staff. We have many dedicated teachers. We have great families, and I just think if we work together and we show some patience with one another, that we can come to an understanding that will meet the needs of almost everyone. I wish it was everyone, but no matter what we do, there's going to be some people where they just don't fit, and we're gonna try to limit that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Clark, for making the time to be with us. And thank you all, the whole team that helped us put this together. Thank you so much, parents, for coming. And you are the reason for our work. So we look forward to working with you in the future. Reach out to us if you have any questions, sending your, continue to sending your questions, concerns. Reach out to us, and we're here to serve you. Thank you so much, and blessings to all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.